had a toothache, went to the doctor, and they were like, okay, we have to do an x-ray. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I can't afford an x-ray. Like, how much is this gonna cost me, y'all? Like, I'm a student. And they looked at me like shocked, and they were like, no, 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 like you need an x-ray. Like, it's free. Like, it's because it's necessary. Like you said, your tooth is hurting. And once again, like young Paulina was just completely mind blown. Howdy und servus, y'all. My name is Paulina de los Santos, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast, The Pod Abroad. I am super happy if it's your first time seeing my videos. Please, consider subscribing or liking this video, and let's get into it. Today, we are talking about the 10 reasons why you should move to Germany. And what are my qualifications? I am an American who has lived in Munich, Germany the last 9 years. So it has definitely been a while. I came in 2016 for a master's program at the Technical University of Munich in sustainability. Then I graduated in 2019 and wanted to stay for various reasons that I'll go through today. So if you are remotely curious about life in Germany, if you are presented with the opportunity to move here and just want to know more, if you're curious about traveling to Munich or Germany in general to scope it out, then this episode is definitely for you. I will give a disclaimer that I have only ever lived in Munich. So of course, naturally, my views are shaped by this city, and I will be speaking a lot about personal experiences. I understand, of course, that like every city in Germany is different and people go through different things. So there is that disclaimer. And I'm not going to be talking about the job market necessarily. I guess it's not amazing right now in general to like maybe what it used to be because of, the state of the world, the economy of the world right now. And I'm not talking about university in specific, although that was the reason why I came here initially, but just wanted to talk about the top 10 things and reasons why I think you should move here in general that like impact me now as a working adult on a day-to-day basis. So let's get into it. Number 10 is order, and things here just work. Germany is known for German efficiency. And I know all the Germans watching this right now would think like, oh my gosh, though, like the trains never run. At least y'all have trains. Things have a bit of an order here. And although I do like to complain sometimes that like, oh, Germans are very so specific with all of their rules and everything, at the end of the day, it makes day-to-day life really nice. Trash gets sorted here. It's just like the little things. Like we have very specific rules on separating trash. And in Munich, our streets are super clean. And that is all because people kind of follow the rules here. There are silent hours that people are very like obedient about. On Sunday, the stores are closed. So yeah, all in all, like the order kind of eases one's day-to-day life here. When you get on the Autobahn here in Germany, people respect the rules so deeply, especially compared to like where I'm from in Texas. Like in Texas, you're on the highway and like it's like the Wild West. Like anything goes. People are passing one another from like the left and the right. There are slow people in the fast lane, and like that just doesn't happen on the German highways here in my experience. People just respect the rules in a different way of like, I guess the obedience in general is higher. And like, although like many times I can complain about it, I'm just like, oh, just like let your hair down, like break the rules. The rules are something that like, does, contribute to things just like it contributes to things working here, and that I can appreciate. Number 9 is the nature. I think you should move to Germany if you are super into nature. Particularly, I think you should move to Bayern, which is Bavaria, the state of Bavaria. I live here in Munich, and the Alps, the German Alps, are an hour away. And if you want to go even further, of course, they span even further deep, you can like go 2 hours from Munich, and like the German Alps are there, and they're just absolutely breathtaking. I think it's one of the big reasons why I have chosen to stay here in Munich versus other cities in Germany. Just that proximity of knowing that you can just like, yeah, leave on a day trip on the weekend and just be transported to a whole other beautiful, like seemingly desolate world out there. It just feels very freeing leaving like your city life and being able to go on this incredible hike or walk or visit like the lakes. We have so many lakes here around us. There are both alpine lakes and just kind of like normal lakes, even within the city of Munich. And that I really, really love. There's so much green space here. We have a river flowing through our city called the Isar. And it's so beautiful. And you can like splash around in the summer if you have your little water shoes, because there's a ton of rocks. But the nature here is just really unmatched. When I think about my home state of Texas, I'm just like, it's really hard to find that similar nature when you live in a city like San Antonio or Houston, for example. I know Austin, of course, has like the lake and rivers, but in other major cities in Texas, like Dallas, like you literally have to like seek out nature. Whereas like there's just so much in Munich itself that I'm extremely grateful for. We have like a gorgeous trail that like one could run by down our river that's just so beautiful. Every time I come back to this city, I'm just like, "Oh, I'm so privileged to live here." You know how like some people go on vacation and they're just like, "Oh, get me out of this hellhole that I live in. Like I just want to feel something." I don't feel that way. Well, sometimes I'm just like, I want to like get away from like work and life and like my home for a little bit. But when I come back, every time I come back to this city, I'm just like, I have an overwhelming sense of gratitude for being here and privilege, because it is a privilege to live in this city. Like Munich is known to be one of the most expensive cities in Germany, and that it is. Like, yeah, eating out, like doing stuff out does cost a lot of money here. Rent is pretty high. Nevertheless, the amenities that you have for free, like just like the beauty of this city to me is like so, so, so worth it, and something that I am incredibly grateful for. So yeah, the nature is insane. The lakes like are like crystal clear and like blue when the sun is shining. The Alps just never get old, y'all. I didn't grow up hiking in Texas. It's something that I picked up when I moved here, and now it's something that I deeply think like I couldn't live without. Like I wouldn't want to live without proximity to insanely incredible mountains. Yeah, just something that I really love. Last month when I turned 30, my boyfriend Tim and I went to the Dolomites, which is the Italian Alps in the north of Italy. It was about a 5 hour drive from Munich. And we stayed for 2, 3 nights and did some really, really cool hikes. And like that was also very, very cool and just like in a different country. Just so grateful for those opportunities. But yeah, I don't even have to go 5 hours. I could literally go an hour from my home in Munich and be in the mountains. And that's just something so cool. So if you're a nature person, if you're a granola girl or someone just like that loves the outdoors or like wants to be that person, like move to Munich. It's definitely your city. Number 8, I want to talk about learning about other people's cultures and like having international friends. I think you should move to Germany, like a German city, such as Berlin or Munich, if you want to learn more about other people's cultures as well. I think growing up in Houston, like obviously Houston's a very, very diverse city. You do meet people from all walks of life, but I feel like a lot of the time it's even like first generation or second generation Americans that, yeah, like of course the culture is there, but it's a bit different than like me meeting my friends here in Munich that we're all immigrants like for the first time. I have friends from all over from different European countries and beyond, like also friends from the US and but friends from Italy and Bulgaria and suddenly I'm like forgetting every country. I don't know. It's just very, very cool getting to understand people's cultures, and just like learn more face to face. And I think that is such a beautiful thing and a nice thing to be exposed to, especially like if you're craving, um, yeah, craving to like learn about others. And I think it's a great opportunity to leave your home culture, your hometown. In my case, I grew up in Houston, and then when I was 10, I moved to South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, where it is very culturally homogenous in a sense of like, I think the census is like it's over 90% Hispanics. And of course, it takes leaving to like have an appreciation for that. And I very, very much appreciate my culture, but I think it's so incredibly insightful to learn about other cultures as well. I just think it's something so exciting, and I'm still learning every single day, like even after being here for 9 years, but like especially like if you were to move here, like the first few months are just going to be kind of like mind-blowing of just like learning so many new things, and I think that's exciting. I think it's really cool, and we're all pretty different, and that's something that can be embraced. Number 7 is learning a new language, and learning about German culture in general. So, learning German, of course, you should move to Germany if you are learning the language already in your home country. I will say, like, it depends on what kind of environment you're in, but yeah, if you're learning German already in your home country, then yeah, definitely move here, figure it out, and you're gonna be in the best place, of course, to have that practice and exposure. When I first moved here, it was in 2016, and I studied a master's fully in English, and then I've been working full time ever since in English, and my partner and I speak in English in our household. So for me, I've always said like I've kind of lived in like in a false reality of Germany in a sense that like I live in my bubbles. Though that's by choice. Like if I wanted to, I could be practicing my German more. And if you want to learn the language, I would suggest like the dream honestly would be like to learn the language or like to come to Germany and like exclusively be learning the language for like a year before you'd start a study program or a work program. I think moving here with like the main goal of like wanting to learn German and immediately going into a full-time job is a very hard thing because you're already like going through cultural differences and like cultural shock when you first move here, and workplace differences in general, that it's a lot if you were to say like, oh, I'm going to move to Germany for a year because I want to learn the language, but you're working full time. It gets hard. I will say it gets hard, but I think the dream would be like if I could do it all over again and I had the money, because it takes quite a bit of money to do language classes. I would have loved to have exclusively learned the language for 1 year. But that's definitely a reason why you should move here if you have the means to do so. And just learning, yeah, about German culture in general, I think is really, really cool and insightful. When I first moved here, everything was new. Like it just felt new and novel, to where I come from in South Texas, and just so different. But I was ready to embrace that with open arms. Um, just little things like, oh, how Germans celebrate holidays. Like it's a bit different how they celebrate Christmas, or um how they have like Spargelzeit, which is like the asparagus season here in Germany. And I was in my first job, I remember at Allianz as a student, when I realized like all of my colleagues were so excited because they were serving white asparagus for lunch. And I was just like, that's so funny. Like these are little quirks and cultural things that like you don't know until you move here. Yeah, the little things that like excite Germans, and like how they celebrate things, and just like how they interact with one another. There's just so much to learn about their culture. The Stammtisch culture, of like gathering kind of weekly or monthly with the same group of friends. I think that's really cute. The concept of like having a Feierabend, which is like the time after work, your Feierabend, is like, yeah, the time where you can just like not be working and just enjoying relaxing. I think that's really sweet. So there's a lot of little cultural nuances I think that one can learn, and You can choose whether or not you want to adopt that. Nevertheless, it's just insightful learning. So if you're a learner, definitely come move to Germany and take it all in. Number 6 I want to talk about is public transport in cities. And I will say it freaking rocks. I love the public transport so, so much. It's been 9 years and like I still haven't like gotten over it. I think it's so, so cool. When I was talking to my brother back in Texas, I think like 2 episodes ago, he was saying like, oh, like his main like cultural shock or cultural difference when he came to Munich was public transport and that he loves it. Um, so it's not just me, like it's others. I'm sure people visiting like also really enjoy. I've always found it funny that Germans love to say like, "Oh, but like Deutsche Bahn," which is like the service that has our trains, like Deutsche Bahn like is always delayed and Deutsche Bahn this and Deutsche Bahn that. Like I think it's part of the culture. I think it's part of German culture to shit on Deutsche Bahn. I have also joined. I have joined and partaken in this kind of complaining culture. Nevertheless, I am always grateful that it exists because we don't have public transport like that in Texas, like the public transport they have here in Munich. So for anyone who hasn't been to Germany before, in Munich, for example, we have buses, we have trams, and the trams are like above ground on like electric lines. We have underground, which is called like the U-Bahn, an underground system like a subway that is amazing and can get you all over town. We have S-Bahns. The S-Bahns are suburban trains that go a little bit further outside of Munich and connect the outside, like outskirts of Munich into the city. And then you have regional trains and then like fast distance trains. So there's just like a plethora of options here to get around. And I lived in Munich for the first like, I don't know, 6 years without a car. And like my life was great. My boyfriend and I now have an old Opel Corsa, which is like a 2010 little car that was owned by a grandpa before. And that's great that we just like bought, I think, for 3 grand. And we thought we were just gonna like use it for one summer and then sell it again, but we still have it. I will say, I mean, like it's nice if you have a car eventually, maybe like if it's a complete like luxury here in Munich. I will say that having a car, like if one of my friends like in their 30s has a car, we're like, ooh, like they have a car, how cool. Cause like it's not that common amongst us, especially like all of us like are immigrants. Sometimes people like don't know how long they're going to be here. But one does not need a car in Munich. When I moved from the US to Germany in 2016, I sold my brother's vehicle. That was so sweet. Like he took my little vehicle, I sold his because it was of a higher value. And I came here literally just with my suitcases and got around for 6 years without owning a car, and it was great. Like my life wasn't any worse. I just love public transport. I just remember like my first month coming to Germany, like taking a regional train to Tegernsee, which is a gorgeous alpine lake about an hour south of Munich. And I just remember like, looking out the window and just thinking, this is the best. Are you kidding me? Like, I am not looking out on traffic. I'm looking at the gorgeous trees and the sun was shining. It was just like everything I could have dreamed of and more. Or going on ICE trains, which are like the high speed trains. Some of them have like sliding doors, like cabins kind of where, I don't know, 4 to 6 people can sit in a tiny room. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this is just like Harry Potter. Like this is like in the movies. Now it's just like a normal day-to-day like occurrence in my life of like being on public transport. But like, you know what? I'm never going to forget where I come from and that we don't have this. I grew up needing to be driven absolutely everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And it's just a very different life because of that. Like my poor mother, like shout out to you, mom, love you. She was my personal driver and took me to like absolutely everything that I signed up for. Like I was signing up for activities in high school that like I didn't even ask her like if I could, but like when I signed up for activities, that was signing my mom up to drop me off at places like any single time I'd ask. I'd be like, "Hey, I need to go here at this time." And I just expect it, which is crazy. Like, because students and like younger people here in Munich like have the autonomy to be able to just go out and about in the city because we have great transport. Because of that, I also think then like there's probably significantly lower drunk driving rates. Like we don't need to drunk drive here in Munich. Um, because we have options. Why did I say need? We don't have to like, and also people in Texas shouldn't and like don't need to either. They could buy Ubers. I know they're expensive, but it's just a different environment that like when we go out, I'm never thinking like, oh, I have to pay like $50 or 50 euro in Uber tonight, like to get home. Cause like if you're drinking out in Texas and you're being responsible, either one person is your designated driver, not drinking, or you're taking Ubers, which obviously costs so much money. But here in Munich, like we don't have that issue because of public transport. I'm just the biggest public transport fan, y'all. You'll never catch me like thinking that like I'm too good for public transport. It's a great thing and it works here in Munich. Number five, I want to talk about food prices here in Munich. And I would say that you should move to Germany if you want better food prices. I don't have any solid, like concrete evidence on that, like numerically that I can magically like whip up right now. But like from my personal experience, I just got back from Texas 2 weeks ago. And things here, honestly, like shopping for groceries in Munich is so affordable compared to Texas, like where everything just feels significantly more expensive. You can get like a fresh loaf of bread here, probably for like 3 euro, and it's delicious. Whereas like in Texas, you're just getting like the square bread. And it's like $5 for like an artisan loaf that's like not even that good. Look at me, like I'm so German now, like comparing bread. Um, that's that's very German. Fun fact, y'all, like if you're from Texas listening or like the US listening to this, like Germans call our bread in the US toast. And they even sell it here at the grocery stores in Germany. Like anytime like the bread is square and in a bag, they call it toast. And I find that so funny and cute because, like, I've told my German friends, like, no, like, no, 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 like, toast is when the bread is toasted. That's just bread. And they're like, that's not bread. Like, we don't want to claim that. Like, and I'm just like, okay, that's fair. Um, wine here in Munich is like incredibly expensive. Once my boyfriend Tim and I were in Texas and we bought like the cheapest bottle you could find at HEB and it was like $10 and it tasted so bad. You just like don't have that problem here. We have like you can get a bottle of red for like 3 euro that tastes so freaking good. Like you'd be surprised. Like there are just like an insane amount of incredibly delicious and affordable bottles of wine here. That's great. But you're like, Paulina, is wine groceries? Maybe not. Maybe you're right. But in general, like from my personal experience, what would I say? Eating out here in Munich, very expensive. But like, so is life in Austin or San Antonio. Like, when I was eating out in San Antonio 2 weeks ago, like also a meal would be like 15 to 20 bucks or like with a drink, like 20 to 25 per person. That's similar like of what it would be here in Munich. So yeah, expensive. But the difference is that like groceries in Texas were pretty pricey and like I don't find that to be the same here in Munich. Although, like I said, like rent is super high here in Munich, but like I think like one could live on a budget and like live an affordable lifestyle if you're not someone that like goes out and spends a ton of money on alcohol. Like if you're not someone that like needs to live a very social life, like you can be frugal here because grocery prices allow that. When I lived, if we're gonna throw it back to 2016, I lived the first 3 years of my life here in Germany off of 900 euro a month, which was crazy. I was only able to do that because I lived in a dorm and my rent was like 240 euro or something a month. My insurance was like 100 euro. So there's like 350 more or less. And then I still had money for groceries left over and a little bit like on life. Like I was on a strict budget, but I remember at the time I was paying like my budget was 40 euro a week in groceries. And y'all, I was eating good. I was getting avocados, frozen berries, and everything, but like I did not eat out. Like I couldn't afford to eat out. So because I couldn't afford to eat out, I was just like, well, I'm gonna like eat well at home and like, yeah, we're not gonna struggle at home. And I feel like if I lived alone here and I was exclusively buying groceries, I could probably now live off of like 60 euro now, because that was in 2016. It's almost 10 years later. I feel like I could live off of probably 60 euro in groceries for myself a week. It's doable. And you'd get good stuff with 60 euro. Like you could get the frozen berries and like avocados if you'd want. I just think, yeah, the food prices are a really good thing. And not only the prices, but like the quality, of course. The quality of food here is great. It's great. What else can I say? I mean, when I think about like produce quality, what am I trying to say? Like when the quality is great, I don't know. Maybe like processed products. Like maybe there's like, maybe this is all just like a false perception of mine too. But like, I think like processed products aren't as like bad as in the US. There in general, there's probably like less options, which is like unfortunate, like and maybe not as innovative, but um in general, like quality is pretty decent. I will say, like Texas rocks for like great produce quality. We have like really great fruits and vegetables. Nevertheless, like I still also get like pretty decent stuff here. The difference is, unfortunately, like in Germany, like many things have been shipped in from literally all corners of the world. I think that's crazy because like I grew up like you don't know what you have until it's gone. Like I grew up with fresh local produce like from my state my whole life. And then you move here and like you realize like, oh, okay, like the Germans can't relate. Like they get their stuff literally from everywhere. Nevertheless, like the quality is pretty decent. So that is all about food and food prices. Number 4, let's talk about healthcare. I think you should move to Germany if healthcare is something important to you. I have so much to say about healthcare. When you Google German healthcare, it says that it's one of the best systems in the world. I'm sure Germans have a lot to say about that. Of course, they have a lot to say about everything, which is fair. I can appreciate them wanting more and like wanting better for their society. I think that's something admirable. Nevertheless, like as an American coming here, y'all, I was just like mind blown again and again and again, like coming from a US system to the German healthcare system. It's just very impressed by the system here. Just for some context for any German listeners out there, in the US, like our system is, mainly privatized. And if you are like on a lower income level, then you are on like public, like Medicare, Medicaid. And even with like very good private insurance growing up through my dad's work, like we still had a copay. And a copay is something that you pay like like anytime you want to see a doctor. So for example, in the early 2000s, like my mom would have to pay like $20 to $25 just for us to be seen at our general practitioner. And she was a single mom of 3. So imagine like us 3 are all sick. My mom would have to spend 25 whatever dollars per person, like $75 just to be seen. This doesn't include the cost of medicine, which like don't get me started on are like absolutely insane and like under like a monopoly in some situations and just like inflated prices like versus what they are here in Germany. So we had a copay for like absolutely anything and everything. So like not just for the visit itself, but like for any scan that they might need to do, that's going to be an extra fee. Any just like an additional test, like everything was on top. And this is like with very good private health insurance. I moved to Germany, and then I'm a student, and like I was paying €100 a month for insurance. And I'm trying to think of like my first experience with it. I think I went to like my Frauenarzt, which is a gynecologist, and I was seen, and like I remember like going up to the desk and saying like, yeah, like what do I pay for? And the lady's like, nothing, nothing. Like you're free to go. And I was just like, that was weird. Okay, like maybe something happened. I was 21 years old, and I was like, okay, let's see. A few months later, I think I had a toothache. I think I just ended up having sensitivity, but had a toothache, went to the doctor, and they were like, okay, we have to do an x-ray. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I can't afford an x-ray. Like, how much is this gonna cost me, y'all? Like, I'm a student. And they looked at me like shocked, and they were like, no, 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 like you need an x-ray. Like, it's free. Like it's because it's necessary. Like you said, your tooth is hurting. And once again, like young Paulina was just completely mind blown. Got that x-ray like immediately. I once woke up and I had a little mark on my lip that hadn't been there before. And at first I thought like, oh, it's just because I'm like biting my lip all the time. Like it's probably just a scab. Well, it stayed there for like a month, and I was like, okay, maybe I should go check this out. I went and got an appointment. And why can't I think of like the name for like a doctor, a dermatologist? There we go. The way you go like to check your skin. And went to the dermatologist and was like, hey, like I have this and it hasn't gone away. And she was like, oh, like we got to take it out. We have to have a little surgery next week. Like I'll see you whatever on this day. And I was like, girl, like I'm a student. I can't pay for this. She was like, what do you mean? This is covered. We'll check if you have cancer. Like, went in next week and they did the little procedure, like put 2 stitches in my lip, and like it was fine in the end. I didn't have cancer in the lip, but it just felt good that I could be reassured and get those services. I know there's a lot of discourse in Germany, of course, around waiting times in our system. And yeah, that is an issue for sure. The system's not perfect, and oftentimes people have to wait. But what I've done also, like to improve that, is like go outside of the city as well. Like last month, I needed an MRI because I had an injury. I had like really, really severe shin splints from running, and I thought I might have had a hairline fracture. Couldn't find a scan for like an MRI, like anywhere in Munich for the next 6 months, which was ridiculous because I was like, what if I had like an actual broken leg? How the hell am I supposed to get this scan? But then I got an appointment, shout out to my colleague Marina, out of town, through her husband. But like there's always like ways, I feel like if you like go outside of the city into a small village, like you'd probably be able to get an appointment for certain things. So is the system perfect? No. Like could it be improved? Of course, always. Nevertheless, like when I compare the system here to the US, like I'd pick Germany any day. Seriously. So health insurance here isn't free. It is universal and mandatory, meaning that people are forced to pay. Americans might have their opinion on that. I just think it's wild that like in the US we don't, like our healthcare isn't mandatory, but yet car insurance is, y'all. Make it make sense. Like how does that make sense that like to drive a car like you need to have insurance, but like you don't have to have health insurance? That's really sad, and I could not live life like on the edge like without insurance. Like I wouldn't be okay mentally, I think, like if I didn't have health insurance. It's just nice to know that like I won't have to go into debt like medical debt, or I don't know, like file for bankruptcy like if I were to get cancer, like knock on wood. I think that just like is something so reassuring. I also want to share a story of my experience with the healthcare system, and throw it back to 2019 when I got my first job, full-time job here. when I got my first full-time job, I was just like ready to take care of myself. I was like, okay, girl, like it's your time to shine. I went to an orthodontist and I was like, I'm gonna get braces. Um, because that's something that I had always wanted, like as an adult. Like I had braces briefly when I was a kid, but like I needed them again. So I went to an orthodontist. They saw my jaw, which I knew like at the time, like I very much knew and was aware that I had an underbite, meaning like my lower jaw was um protruding a bit further out. And that had always given me trouble my whole life, like chewing, caused like a lot of mental issues of like my appearance. Like I just like I hated how my underbite looked. I didn't know what it was like to like properly chew because my back molars like wouldn't even touch, which was wild when I think about it. Anyway, I had gotten a quote once in the US when I was a teenager, and they were like, oh no, this would be completely, my insurance like wouldn't cover it. It would be completely cosmetic and like 40,000 US dollars. That was like back in the day. And I remember like crying that day and being so sad and thinking like, wow, like one day I'll get jaw surgery when I'm rich and successful. And that was the dream. And here I was now, like a decade later in Germany, and my orthodontist was like, yeah, you need jaw surgery. Orthodontics is not going to fix this. And long story short, like they put in the request with my health insurance, and I think 6 months later, I got a letter in the mail with an approval saying that it would be covered 100% by my health insurance because it was medically necessary. When I got that letter, y'all, I cried tears of joy and was so excited for this opportunity to to fix my jaw. And so in 2020, like I started the whole process, got braces, and in 2021, I had jaw surgery and they advanced my upper jaw 8 millimeters forward. It was like a 4.5 hour, 5 hour surgery. They put 2 titanium plates and 18 screws in my face. 6 months later, they took it out when everything was all good. But y'all, it was a damn journey. And another beautiful thing about the German healthcare system is that I had medical leave, y'all. I had medical leave from my job and for 6 weeks, and I got paid 100%. Like I got paid my normal salary. And my HR told me, like, they gave me a warning and they were like, hey, like, if you need more than 6 weeks, then like you're only gonna get like 80% of your salary. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like that's also amazing. What? Just like something, yeah, that Americans like could never experience. Like, it's just something that I'm so grateful for. Like, ich bin so dankbar. Vielen Dank, Deutschland. Yeah, I love the German healthcare system. Oftentimes, like when I'm comparing it to the US, my German friends have been like, of course you love it because like the US has a shit system. And I'm like, yeah, true. And they're like, don't compare us to the US. Like we want to be compared to like the Nordics or Switzerland. And I'm like, okay, interesting, but maybe fair. I will say in the US, we do have some of the best doctors and care. That's kind of like counterintuitive, right? Is it like we have incredible doctors and incredible care, but like the system itself is just so broken, and it's not fair. Definitely not a fair one. Number 3, let's get into it, is travel. I think you should move to Germany if you are someone that wants to travel, that likes to travel, or is curious about traveling. It's something that is suddenly accessible to people when you're here. If you have the opportunity to move to Germany, like take this as your sign to do it. I always say, like, what's the worst that can happen? Is it like you don't like it and then you go home? Like, is that really so bad? I think you should take the plunge and do it. I think travel here is just absolutely incredible. Budget travel here is great. And then I think like the biggest cultural difference for me is that like in the US, you kind of grow up with this notion that like you can travel the world like when you're older and like rich and or like when you're retired and like you've worked your ass off your whole entire life, like so then like finally you deserve something nice. And like that's just like not the notion here in Germany. Like the middle class in Germany is able to travel. And I think that's so, so cool. And when I say travel, like I don't mean like you don't have to go like wild and like go to Asia or whatever or the US, but like the middle class can like typically afford a vacation within Germany or a vacation like road tripping from Munich to Italy because you can get there in 4 hours. And I just think that's so, so cool. I grew up not being able to go on vacations. Um, so the fact that like I'm able to do so now is just something so incredibly rewarding. I'm just not with it with the US notion that like you need to work your ass off in order to have anything remotely nice. Like y'all, that's like don't believe like that lie that's being sold to you because like people are working like moderately here in Germany, not having to slave their whole life to wait for one vacation, and able to enjoy time off. And that's such a beautiful thing. Proximity to places, of course, is amazing. In Munich, in particular, like I said, like you have the north of Italy, or you can go to Switzerland, or take a train to Paris, or to Prague, Czech Republic, or Slovenia. Like there's just so many places close by, and I think that's very, very cool. Or oftentimes people even like it's sometimes even more expensive to travel within Germany that people like love to spend their money just like to take a flight to Spain that's 2 hours away. So oftentimes like travel here, people might perceive that in the US as like something that's like so luxury. But people aren't like making as much as you'd think. People are not, and yet like we're able to still enjoy these simple pleasures in life of like being able to experience different cultures here, and that's just so cool. So if you have the opportunity to come live here, then do so and get your travel on and get to experience that in life because you don't want to live with what ifs or regrets. It's not nice, right? Like just try it and just do it. Number two of why you should move to Germany, my number two reason is the work life balance. For me, y'all, that was like a big reason why I stayed. When I was in my master's program, I was a working student, which means like I was working part time, 20 hours a week, um, at a big company called Allianz here. It's an international insurance company that's headquartered here in Munich. And I will never forget being told like, oh, like, well, like, how are you going to spend your time off this year? A few months into my job. And I was like, what do you mean time off? And they were like, yeah, like you have vacation days. And I was like, no, 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 like I'm a student. And they were like, yeah, girl, like you have time off. And then that's when like I started looking into the contract that I signed and like deeper into HR. And I was like, oh, wow, like I do have time off. And like I remember I traveled to Jordan with some friends. That was so cool. Like being in the Middle East and getting to experience that culture as well. And that was literally like on a student that like I was living off of 900 euro. I was still able to save somehow in 2016, 2017 and travel because I had the time off. The privilege of having time off is something so, so beautiful. Typically in Germany, like in corporate, people will have like 25 to 30 days off a year of paid vacation. And y'all, to the any Americans watching this or anyone from anywhere else with a similar system, when I say paid time off, like or like vacation days, no, I'm talking about vacation days. I incorporate working in corporate in Munich. I have always had 30 days of vacation a year, which is 6 weeks, and amazing. Like just something so, so special. And I'm not talking about like sick days or holidays. So like even in Bavaria, we have additional public holidays during the week, throughout the year, which is awesome. And then sick days are also like in theory unlimited. Like if you're sick, you're sick. And it's not a trap. Like Germans don't want you coming to the office like all disgusting and sick and getting everyone else sick. Like they can't understand that grind culture of the US and like our system in the US. So yeah, we don't have PTO of like combined days, y'all. I have 30 days of vacation a year. And that's something just so incredible and like something that I'm so used to. Like when I see, yeah, and hear about the amount of days that people have off in the US, I'm just like, y'all, like life is meant to be lived. And people do so here in Germany. So you should definitely move to Germany if you're interested in that work-life balance. Obviously, like people, like it depends on the job. If you're coming from like coming for some hoity-toity, like very fancy, like executive position, like sure, maybe your work-life balance is like not going to be as nice with like all the responsibilities you have. If you're working in finance or sales, like maybe different. But in general, comparing my life here to in Texas and like my friends' perspectives, like the life here is very decent. Quality of work life is great. And like you need to take your time off. If you don't take your time off like by like the end of March the following year, like you have to. So that's just something cool. 6 weeks, y'all. That's a long time. That's a great time. I've once had a family member tell me, like, but why do you need 6 weeks? Like, what do you do? Y'all, I will just say, like, if y'all think that way, like, if you think that, like, what would you do with 6 weeks of time? Y'all gotta live. You gotta live a little bit more. But number one, to wrap up this video on reasons of why I think you should move to Germany, is safety. Safety, safety, safety. Like, and that is my number one reason, honestly. Like, from being an American, growing up in Texas to living in Munich, Germany now, like, safety is invaluable to me and something that I never, ever take for granted. And like, something I'm just like incredibly grateful for here. It's a privilege, of course, to live somewhere where you don't have to worry about, yeah, about your safety, especially as a woman. Feeling safe as a woman is just like something so deeply profound and something that I didn't even necessarily grow up feeling. Like I said, like in this episode, you don't know what you have until it's missing, and or you don't know what your situation is, or maybe you don't know if a situation is bad unless you're taken out of it. Like for me, like safety concerns in South Texas and in Houston, like were just like something natural. Like being on guard all the time and like having to be like heavily vigilant, like was just like something ingrained in me. Nevertheless, like I said, because of that, like it didn't feel so intense because that's just what it is. But now that I know better and now that I know the life of feeling safe in Munich, when I go back, I feel different. It doesn't feel nice. And it took me a long while here in Munich to like actually take a breath, and probably took me over 2 years to realize like you're actually safe. Obviously, like I'm still vigilant. Like I make good choices. Like I try not to be walking alone, whatever, at 3 a.m. But like walking alone at night in the dark is something so normal here. Like in the winter time, the sun can set like at 4:30 and you're in the office and don't get out till 5:30, for example, and one needs to walk in the pitch black. And like I said, when I first moved here, like I had never like walked alone at night in my whole life. So immediately, like your first feeling is like skepticism, right? Like I was just like, I don't know about this. But it's something like I had to do. And then like I said, probably took 2 years. And now like 9 years later, like I'm just so grateful. I never feel in danger here in Munich. I can't speak for all of Germany, but like, gosh, is Munich safe? It's just such a good feeling. And something that I am so grateful for. So grateful for, y'all. Munich is like not vicious like Paris. Like you can also just like, I don't know, people have their purse like on the subways, just like chilling next to them. Like, and I feel like in like Paris or London or Rome, like that, like wouldn't happen. I have heard of like maybe pickpockets like at Oktoberfest, but like that's just like, that's a huge multi, yeah, super international festival like that we have once a year. Um, Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening there, but like from my German friends, like, or my Münchner Kindle friends, shout out Paloma, who have like been here, born and raised in this city, like they don't really like worry about being mugged or pickpocketed. Like that doesn't happen in our city. And that's just something so, so cool. I've always said like I think people who are born and raised in Munich are like grown, like raised in a bubble, a beautiful bubble though. They are raised in such a beautiful bubble, obviously, that doesn't like represent reality around the world. And like, therefore, like maybe some Germans are a bit naive when they like go to Latin America and are like, oh, hee, like, not understanding or not having like an accurate perception of danger. Nevertheless, yeah, like Munich is a great place to be. And I find it so funny that like when I first moved to Germany, people were like, oh, like, but what's out there? Like, be safe. Like, be safe, girl. Like, make sure you're safe out there. Oof, and I think that's just like the culture in Texas of like not knowing, like of being afraid of the unknown. Because if y'all really knew like where I was moving to, you'd know that Munich, Germany is safer than Houston, Texas. It's safer than Austin or the Rio Grande Valley. And that's something that like, yeah, I've probably said it a million times that I am so, so grateful for. I'll finish off with like this little stat that I found online on this website called Numbeo. I don't know how legitimate this is, but like they had a lot of different like comparisons for quality of life, like food prices, blah, blah, blah. And I looked up the crime comparison between Munich, Austin, and Houston. And Munich, like their metric for a level of crime was very low at around 15 points. Austin ranked at 44 points, and Houston crime ranked high at 73 points. So there you go. Like, there's also some numbers. There are numbers out there proving this. We don't have gun violence here in Munich like we do in Texas. When I moved to Munich, it was 2016. And at the time, like there was a shooting at the Olympia Einkaufszentrum, which is the mall here in Munich. And I remember it happened like maybe 1 or 2 months before I moved here. And people were like, are you sure you want to go? Are you sure you want to go to Munich? That was an isolated event that like is not an everyday occurrence here. And because of that, it made international news. But like, y'all, shootings happen all the time in Munich that don't even get, in Houston, that don't even get reported, y'all, because like they're just so incredibly frequent. Gun violence in Texas is such a real thing. And something I just don't worry about nearly as much like here in Germany. There are stricter gun laws that I can appreciate. And it's just a different culture overall. You don't hear about like mass shootings like you do in the US or school shootings here, like not a thing. They can't relate. Sometimes I guess like conservatives in the US might be like, yeah, well, like what about the knives? Like there's like knife attacks in Germany and blah, blah, blah. I will say like, y'all just compare the crime rates. Anytime you've like heard about like violence in Germany, like it's probably like the reason why it's getting so much crazy international attention is because it's not normal. It does not happen here at the rate that it happens in the United States. Yeah. Bottom line, Munich is very safe. And if you value safety, I think that's definitely another reason like why you should move to Germany. Yeah. So I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Wow. Like I had only planned out like the 10 points, but like not really, I didn't know what I was going to say like specifically, but I'm glad I was able to speak from my heart. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and consider subscribing or following wherever you're listening to this. And yeah, really excited for more episodes to come. And thanks for listening. Ciao. The Pod Abroad's video, audio, and music is produced and edited by Tim Teherne. Make sure to give us a follow and leave a comment if you like this episode.